In a quiet, forgotten town lived a young man named Ethan. His life was a simple, repeating pattern of hardship. Each morning, he would rise with the sun to search for work, only to return home at dusk, tired and silent, with barely enough to survive. Though the world seemed to offer him little, Ethan clung fiercely to one treasure. His honesty. It was the only thing he felt he truly owned, a principle that guided him through the darkest days. One evening, after another long and fruitless search for work, Ethan walked home with a heavy heart. The streets were empty, and the silence was broken only by the sound of his own weary footsteps. Suddenly, a voice called out to him. He turned to see an old man standing alone, beside 3 heavy-looking bags. The old man's face was etched with the lines of time, but his eyes held a strange, knowing glint. He asked Ethan for a favor. He needed help carrying the bags to the next village, a journey of several miles. In return, he promised a reward of gold coins. For Ethan, who had nothing, the offer was a lifeline. He readily agreed. As he lifted the first bag, he was surprised by its immense weight. The old man smiled faintly and explained, "This bag is filled with bronze coins." As they began their journey, Ethan couldn't help but notice the old man's gaze fixed upon him. It was a look of intense scrutiny, as if he were being measured and weighed. Ethan felt a prick of discomfort but quickly pushed it aside, reminding himself of his own unwavering integrity. He was an honest man, and he had nothing to hide. Soon, they reached a wide, flowing river. The old man stopped and pointed to the second bag. "My strength is failing," he said. "Could you carry this one as well? It is filled with silver." A flicker of irritation passed through Ethan. The old man's constant watchfulness felt like suspicion, a silent accusation against his character. Still, he swallowed his pride. It was just a job, he told himself, and he needed the money. He hoisted the second bag onto his other shoulder, the weight of the silver now doubling his burden. They continued on, the path growing steeper. At the foot of a tall, imposing hill, the old man stopped once more, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He looked at Ethan, his eyes pleading. "I cannot go on," he lamented. "Please, take the last bag. This one is full of gold. Carry all 3 to the top of the hill for me. I will follow when I can." He then handed Ethan a small, sealed letter, instructing him to open it only when he reached the summit. Ethan felt a surge of confidence. He looked the old man in the eye and said firmly, "Do not worry, sir. You can trust me." With newfound resolve, he gathered all 3 heavy bags and began the arduous climb alone. The weight was immense, pressing down on him with every step. But the thought of the gold coins waiting for him spurred him onward. Halfway up the hill, with his body aching and his breath coming in ragged gasps, a thought, quiet as a whisper, entered his mind. It was a dangerous thought, a seductive one. "You could just run," it said. "No one would know. You would be rich beyond your wildest dreams." At first, he dismissed it. He was Ethan, the honest man. But the thought did not leave. It grew louder, painting vivid pictures in his mind. He saw himself in a fine house, wearing expensive clothes, eating lavish meals. He imagined a life of comfort and ease, a life free from the daily struggle for survival. He saw a future where he no longer had to bow his head or beg for work. The fantasy was intoxicating, a sweet poison that began to seep into the very core of his being. The lifetime of honesty he had so carefully guarded began to feel like a foolish burden. In that moment, temptation won. Greed, a force he had never truly known, overwhelmed him. With his heart pounding in his chest, a mix of fear and exhilarating freedom, Ethan turned and ran. He didn't look back. He sprinted down the hill, clutching the bags to his chest as if they were his own life, and didn't stop until he reached the safety of his small, empty home. Breathless, he bolted the door and dropped the bags to the floor. His hands trembled as he tore them open, his mind already spending the fortune within. But as the contents spilled out, his dreams turned to dust. The bags were filled with nothing but ordinary, worthless stones. Confusion turned to panic. He frantically searched through the rocks, his hope draining away with every second. Then, his fingers brushed against the sealed letter the old man had given him. With a sense of dread, he broke the seal and read the elegant script inside. The letter revealed the truth. The old man was not just a traveler. He was the king, disguised to walk among his people. He was old and had no heir, and he was searching for a successor, not a person of noble blood, but someone with a truly honest heart. The king had been testing him. If Ethan had resisted that single, fleeting thought of greed and delivered the bags as promised, he would have been chosen to inherit the entire kingdom. A wave of crushing regret washed over him. He sank to the floor, surrounded by the stones that mocked his failure. He hadn't been robbed of a fortune. He had thrown away a destiny. A lifetime of building his character, of priding himself on his honesty, had been undone in a single moment of weakness. His integrity had held strong through years of poverty, only to crumble at the first real test. In the crushing silence of his room, Ethan finally understood. Thoughts are like seeds. You can plant a garden of integrity and virtue, but a single, unattended weed of greed can grow to choke everything. It can sprout into an action that destroys all that you value, all that you are. He realized that protecting his mind from temptation was far more important than chasing any opportunity. True honesty isn't about what you do when life is easy. It's about who you are when no one is watching, and temptation is calling your name. From that day forward, Ethan's life was changed forever, but not in the way he had dreamed. He no longer searched for wealth or work. Instead, he embarked on a different journey, an inward one. He vowed to guard his every thought with unwavering vigilance, to cultivate a mind of patience and clarity. He had learned the hardest lesson of all, that the greatest battles are not fought in the world outside, but in the quiet, hidden spaces of the mind. And the prize is not a kingdom of gold, but a character that is truly priceless.